Oh, there was some amazing seafood. I'm glad we ordered fish. It's apparently great for the grey cells.
Well, I think the meal has affected your tummy more than your brain, Situ.
Oh, that's just my energy reserve.
If you say so. But seriously, so much has changed for fishtails these past years, right? I mean, can you imagine this multi-chain restaurant was once just a small shack?
Yes, they have grown.
Yeah. On that note, Situ, let's talk about growth ratios. Our very first category of ratios to revise.
Well, as investors, it's very important to know about growth ratios. Wait, how many such ratios we are planning to revise in total?
Okay, so typically there are 8 ratios categories that they
8.
could quiz us on. So that's growth ratios, margin ratios, return ratios, liquidity ratios, efficiency ratios, leverage ratios, per share ratios and valuation ratios. Okay, so let's begin with the first one, growth ratios. Now Situ, growth ratio tells us whether the company is growing or not and at which pace it's growing. Can you tell me the advantage of growth ratio?
Oh, yes.
The advantage is in the insight they offer. Geologists study rocks to analyze past of our planet, while investors study growth ratios to analyze the past trends in sales, profits, operating cost, depreciation or interest, just to name a few. You can also use it to compare the growth of a company to its peers in the industry and even predict future growth trends in some cases.
A restaurant in space maybe?
Let's ask Mr. Musk whether he's interested.
Well, let him continue the good work that he's doing. Meanwhile, can you tell me the 2 types of growth ratios?
Simple and compounded?
Correct. Simple growth ratio gives us the growth over one time period to another, say year on year or quarter on quarter. While the compounded growth ratio gives us the mean annual growth rate over a specified number of years. Here's the formula for simple growth ratio. Ending value minus beginning value divided by beginning value all into 100. And here's the formula for compounded growth ratio. Ending value divided by beginning value raised to 1 divided by number of years minus 1 all into 100.
So if the sales of financial year 2017 is 120 lakh and the sales of financial year 2018 is 200 lakh, we would get the simple growth ratio as
66.67%. But if in FY 2019 the sales reach rupees 350 lakh, the compounded growth ratio from FY 2016 to FY 2019 would be
51.8% for FY 16 to FY 19.
Tina, you know how much I love formula? I even have tattooed some on my... Well, you know about that. So how do we analyze companies' growth by using simple and compounded ratios?
Okay, so let's start with simple growth ratios first. Okay. So here's the data for company ABC that sells suits. Simple growth ratios reveal that sales grew by 20%.
Oh, people were suiting up.
Yeah, but gross profit and net profit grew only by 15%. This means that the company's expenses, which are deducted from the sales, are growing at a faster pace than the sales. But as an investor, you'll want to know how the company has fared in spite of all its ups and downs for a number of years, right? And that's where compounded growth ratio comes in handy. Consider this example of a car manufacturer. This company is clearly growing steadily over 7 financial years.
So using the compounded annual growth rate or CAGR, we can determine the average annual growth over a specified time interval and even make comparisons.
Yeah, and we can see how things like sales, cost and so on are affecting the business over a number of years.
Really useful stuff, Tina.
Yeah, Situ. But we must use it with caution. Simply looking at the growth rate figure is not enough. We need to look at the base figure or the starting figure on which the growth is calculated. So if this figure is substantially lower than the recent figure, then the growth rate is going to look skewed towards the higher end. You remember how we spoke about using growth ratio to compare a company's performance with its peers? Let's take an example to understand this analysis better. In this example, you can see that company A is growing at a faster pace than the other companies, indicating that it could be a better investment option in that industry. Now, let's move on to margin ratios. Okay?
Yes, we can. But can we maybe do it later, baby? My energy reserves are finally depleted.
Fine. As it is, you have the new desk waiting for you to work on.
Yes.
Meanwhile, here's an assignment for you. Here's a P&L statement with you. Your task is to calculate the EBITDA, EBIT and PAT for 2016, 2017 and 2018. Also, find out the simple and compounded growth rate for these values. It'll help you to interpret the data for yourself.